Hi everybody, Matthew Turnage here. Well, this week we've gotten what has to be the biggest Beatles news in over 25 years, and that's Paul's announcement that they've just completed work on what will be the final Beatles song, a new track to be released later this year. And although Paul didn't specifically state what the song was, the reports have been assuming that it's Now and Then, the third John Lennon demo that the three surviving Beatles did some work on back during the anthology period, but the one that they didn't complete. I think that's a fairly safe bet. Over on the Hoffman forums for the last several weeks, there have been rumors about a new Beatles project that would have something to do with the anthology. And the person who had kind of made mention of this at one point dropped a very specific hint regarding Now and Then. So I think it's at this point a safe bet that that'll be the song that will be released, that Paul has gone in and perhaps with Ringo also and completed the track, and that now plans are to issue that later this year. I'm personally very, very excited about it. It wasn't a shock. Like I said, I'd seen some of those hints over on the Hoffman forum, and even aside from that, for over a decade now, Paul has talked about his desire at someday to go back and complete that track. So it looks like he's finally done it. It'll be interesting to hear. I'm assuming that vocals will have been recorded more recently, so it will be an older Paul McCartney voice on that track. So it'll be interesting to hear how that sounds blended with John's voice from his demo of 40 plus years ago. The demo is out there. If you haven't heard it, look for it and you'll find it very easily. So we kind of know what they were starting with. It'll be interesting to see how that is developed into a completed song. But I'm excited for it and looking forward to it. Now, I did want to address some concerns that I've seen from people online, understandable concerns. The main one being, in addition to Paul's voice, which, hey, if it's the only way we can hear this track is to hear it with Paul's voice in 2023, I'm fine with that. I think Paul's voice now is fine, considering his age. No, he doesn't sound like he did in 1995, but in 1995, he didn't really sound like he did in 1965 either. So I think that's just a natural part of the process. And if that's what it means for us to get this track, then I'm all for it. My expectations are very tempered for this track. I'm not expecting it to measure up to their classics, just the way that, even though I enjoy Free as a Bird and Real Love, they didn't measure up to the old classics in a lot of ways. But I'm looking forward to it, and I'm going to enjoy it for what it is and judge it on its own merits. But the other big complaint or concern, I should say, that I've seen online from people is the fact that the reason why the song was not completed back in 1995 was because George supposedly hated it. Now, the reports are always that George didn't like the track, didn't like the song. The recent reports that this track has been completed have suggested what George didn't like was the recording of the demo, the sound of John's voice on the demo, because of the quality of the tape. So I don't know if that's a little bit of spin there or not, because we don't really know exactly what George's problem with it was. I don't think George, as far as I know, never spoke about it. The reports of George's dislike came from Paul. George said that it was rubbish. And so did he mean the song was rubbish or the tape was rubbish or whatever? We don't know. And I understand that people are concerned that something that George during his lifetime didn't want released would now, decades later after his passing, be released. I understand that people could be concerned about it. I don't have a problem with it. And the reason why is because, one, we don't know exactly, like I said, what George's objections were. If George's objections were simply to the quality of the tape, and that's been able to be overcome by modern technology, then there's no problem there at all. On the other hand, if George's objections were to the song, well, one, who are we to say that George could never change his mind? And two, I think we've got to operate off the assumption that this is being approved by Olivia Harrison. And George gave Olivia the power to approve release or not release of his material after he was gone. I'm certain he made certain wishes known to her that she's tried to honor, but if Olivia feels that it's appropriate to release this now, it's her call. So I'm totally fine with it. I think we have to probably operate under the assumption, at least I think charity would lead us to operate under the assumption that this is working the same way those 1995 tracks did, which, if you'll recall, and I had actually forgotten this until just yesterday as I was reading back on those sessions to try to figure out what might be available. But when Yoko gave the tapes to Paul originally, Paul told her, look, don't put any restrictions on us. Let us be creative and do whatever we feel is appropriate. And then if you don't like what we come up with, then we won't release it. You'll have the power to veto it, but don't put anything on us beforehand. Let us just do what we do and then see if you like it, the end product or not. So I think we can assume, or at least I would like to assume, that Paul treated this the same way with Olivia. He said, he would have told her, I want to finish this track, and if you don't like the end result, it'll be shelved. But if you like it, then we can release it as the final Beatle track. So if that was the case, and I hope that that was the case, that Paul would have approached Olivia the same way he did Yoko back in 1994, 1995, that the song, as it was completed, or as it exists in a completed form now, that would have met with Olivia's approval, as well as Sean's approval, now approving for the Lennon estate, and that everybody's on board and is fully approving of this being released as a last Beatle track. So with that in mind, I'm going to be operating under that assumption until we're told otherwise. So I'm going to be looking forward to this track and looking forward to see what we get. Looking forward also to see how it's going to be released. I assume there will be some sort of physical release, perhaps just a 45. I don't know if there will be a CD, or if the Hoffman earlier rumor suggested it could be some sort of reissue of the anthology, or an anthology 4 or something with some additional stuff. I don't know. But some sort of the song could be released as part of some bigger package, much as Free as a Bird and Real Love were back in 95 and 96. So anyway, those are my thoughts on it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's an exciting prospect. Unless I'm told specifically otherwise by Olivia or Dhani Harrison or Sean Lennon, I'm assuming that it's being handled with respect for the wishes of those family, and that all four Beatles camps are fully united in this project, and that's why it's going ahead. And if so, who are we to complain on George's behalf, for example? So those are my thoughts. Looking forward to it. Love to hear what you think, so let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.